The heartbeat came back at 3:47 in the morning, and it was still beating. Mara heard it before she saw it. A soft, wet thud in her headphones, patient, alive, rising out of 200 years of silence like something surfacing from deep water. She froze. Glitch, she told herself. Loose cable, a stray pulse from the failing hardware. Mara was the last night analyst at a station 3 weeks from being switched off forever. Nothing was supposed to answer here anymore. Nothing ever had. But the signal held. 1420 megahertz. The hydrogen line. The frequency the old handbooks called the water hole. The channel everyone watched because the whole universe hums there. Clean. Repeating. She stopped breathing and pulled the archive that matched its shape. The archive answered in dry text. 4 centuries ago, engineers had beamed a simple pulse into an empty patch of sky. A routine calibration test. Not code, not language, a recorded heartbeat. A child's, taken in a clinic on a Tuesday, chosen because a heartbeat is easy to pick out of noise. Nobody had expected a reply. Nobody was waiting for one. The people who flipped that switch were dust now, their names misspelled in the logs, their reasons forgotten. They had thrown a small human sound into the dark and gone home to dinner and death. Mara did the arithmetic she already knew by heart. Radio travels at the speed of light and nothing outruns it. 400 years, there and back. That meant 200 years out, 200 years home. Whatever had caught this thing was 200 light years away. 200 light years, close by the measure of the galaxy. A single step across a room 100,000 light years wide. Unimaginable by the measure of a human life. Close enough to be a neighbor, far enough that no one would ever shake its hand. And that was the first impossible thing. Space is not a canyon. It does not echo. There is no surface out there, no wall, no cliff of matter that could bounce a signal cleanly back along the exact path it came. Space has no mirror. The second impossible thing was worse. Signals fade with the square of the distance. By 200 light years, that little heartbeat should have thinned into nothing, drowned under the static of a billion suns. It should have been unrecoverable, unhearable, gone. Yet here it was, loud and whole. A faint signal doesn't survive that journey by accident. It doesn't come home on its own. For this to return at all, something had to catch it out there, gather it, hold it, and deliberately send it back. She checked what a true echo should look like. It should be smeared across time, its frequency stretched or squeezed by motion, its rhythm frayed. This one wasn't. Same cadence, same clean interval between beats, no Doppler drift. As if 200 years had never touched it. That was the part that put ice in her hands. Nature blurs things, only intent keeps them intact. A heartbeat returned unbroken. Its rhythm preserved to the millisecond was not a fact of physics. It was a signature. Someone had chosen to keep it perfect. Mara had stopped believing in any of this years ago. She'd come to the silence for the quiet, not the hope. She'd written her resignation letter in her head 100 nights running. The universe was empty, she'd decided. That was a comfort, of a kind. So her finger hovered over delete, report it, and they'd laugh. A burned-out analyst hearing ghosts in a dying machine. Erase it, and she could go home clean. She wanted badly for it to be a malfunction. She wanted the emptiness back. Instead, she did something reckless. She routed it to the room speakers and let the heartbeat fill the empty control floor. Thud, thud, thud. A stranger's pulse, 400 years old, beating in the dark around her like the room itself had a chest. And she noticed something she couldn't unnotice. The beat kept time with hers. Beneath her ribs, her own frightened pulse was falling into step. Or the signal was falling into step with her. She pressed 2 fingers to her throat and counted, and the numbers agreed. Protocol was clear. Log it, seal it, wake the committee, touch nothing, do not transmit, do not answer. But protocol was written by people who never sat alone at night with a heartbeat that had crossed 4 centuries of nothing just to find her. Mara recorded her own heartbeat, right there, hands shaking, and sent it out on the same frequency. One pulse of her, chasing 200 years into the dark after the one that had come home. It was against every rule she'd ever signed. She did it anyway. Then nothing. Of course, nothing. A reply couldn't return for 4 more centuries. She'd know no answer in her lifetime. She sat back, foolish and hollow, certain she'd just thrown her own pulse into the same emptiness that swallowed everyone's. The room went quiet, but the original signal was still playing. And as she listened, it changed. Between each beat, a new sound slipped in, a second, softer rhythm threading through the first. Not smearing, not noise. A companion pulse folded into the child's, keeping perfect time. Her skin went cold. This wasn't the reply to what she'd just sent. That couldn't come for centuries. This was already inside the returned signal. Whatever held that heartbeat for 200 years hadn't only kept it, it had answered it, added itself, beat alongside. So which was it? A mirror holding our own small sound back up to us so we'd finally look? An answer. We are here, we heard, we kept it safe? Or a warning, wearing a familiar heartbeat so we'd open the door before we understood who was knocking? Everything up to the reply is true. We really have cast our signals into the dark. Dishes, messages, a heartbeat flung at an empty sky. No one has ever answered. That is where the record ends. Everything after the reply is where the story begins. Mara didn't seal it. She left the channel open, both rhythms beating into a room that would be dark by morning. Somewhere out there, a pulse we started is still traveling, and something is still beating back. The void kept the beat. The only question left is why.